Welcome to Go Lurk Yourself, a podcast about streaming on the internets. My name is Krunnky. We aim to bring you regular interviews with your favorite streamers to find out more about the person behind the webcam, to give you more of an inside look onto how they got started, what their goals are, and what keeps them coming back to stream. Today we're speaking to Jack Packard of Previously Recorded and Red Letter Media. Welcome, Jack. How are you today?
Was that the start?
Well, I mean, that's kind of how we'll go.
Did you just start it without telling me you started it and now the podcast is ruined?
We're going to go ahead and start now if you're ready.
Oh, wait, that really wasn't the start? Because I thought that was the start.
Oh, well, it could be. I could edit all this out.
Whichever's funniest.
Welcome, Jack. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's a happy Thursday.
Absolutely, man. Hey, thanks for playing PUBG with me earlier today. That was fun.
That was great. We had a little 3-team. We didn't make it. We didn't get that chicken dinner, but I felt like we did all right.
Yeah, we were the second group. The three people that killed us in the end were one group, so we were number two.
And it's like
number two.
the glory of PUBG is we spent the first 5 minutes just setting me up on your Discord channel. We parked ourselves inside of a house and through getting onto your Discord voice channel, and nothing happened to us. The point is we survived till second place, even though we spent 5 minutes in game setting up Discord.
That's the beauty of PUBG. Sometimes the best moments aren't even the wins. It's the crazy crap like flipping a Jeep down a hill or something.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, man, I really appreciate you being on the podcast today. I have to start out because all my friends will give me a little crap if I don't, but I'm a huge fan of previously recorded live is twitch.tv/previously recorded. Is it _live?
Mm-hmm. Previously recorded _live. Absolutely.
There will be links down in the podcast for any links that you give me, including your Twitch channel. You're also, you guys have a YouTube channel for Previously Recorded, and you're from the Red Letter Media YouTube channel as well. Is that correct?
All these things. And so, yeah, we do video games over at Previously Recorded. Over at Red Letter Media, we do old movies with Best of the Worst. We do new movies with Half in the Bag. And every once in a blue moon, you'll get a Plinkett review, which is an in-depth movie review.
And they're great. I mean, the Plinkett reviews were how, like most people, probably how I first heard of RLM. But
absolutely.
Far and away, I love the other stuff you guys do way more these days. It's like consistently entertaining.
Plinkett has finally come back in a real way. I actually didn't watch all of his The Force Awakens review just because I felt like he got a little too bogged down in some of the behind the scenes drama of Star Wars. But this Ghostbusters review, reviewing comedy is the hardest thing because it's either funny or it's not. And the way he was able to mathematically break down why the comedy, I thought it was a fantastic Plinkett review.
Yeah, it was really entertaining. I'm surprised he didn't bust out Science Man for that one. But yeah, I wanted to let everybody here on the podcast know too that I heard about Twitch because I was watching your guys' Half in the Bags and the Best of the Worst episodes, and I heard you and Rich talking about video games, and all of a sudden, I don't know if I heard it on RLM or if I read it on Reddit or somewhere, but you guys started up your own Twitch channel. And I'm like, what is Twitch?
Oh,
and so that's what got me interested in it late last year. And I'm like, I like video games. I like hanging out, chatting with people on the internet. I'm gonna give it a go. And then I liked it so much, I made a community and I started making friends. And I remembered Previously Recorded, and I reached out to you, and you were like, "Hey, I like talking to people. I'll be on your podcast." I'm like, "Score!"
Yeah, we've been doing the live streaming now for about a little over 3 years, and
wow,
we've stumbled every step of the way. Had no idea how to live stream, what kind of equipment we would need. And I feel like only this past year, we've finally gotten it to where it's not a horrible clusterfuck every second. So.
Yeah, I think I've seen some of those earlier ones where you're like figuring out do you guys use OBS? I take it.
Yeah, we use an open broadcaster.
I watched you guys like as you're figuring out, okay, this is where we're going to put this camera, this screen, this is where we're going to do this, and you had multiple different attempts at it, and it was, I think that's why it was so relatable and fun to watch, because it was, you guys were just a couple of dudes sitting down to play video games, and you guys both have always projected a true love of video games. You don't always agree. This is my take on it. You don't always agree on what you like,
Mhm.
but that's what makes it great because you're just open and honest about it.
Oh, well, everyone's got their own perspective, and I think that's why Rich and I work well together. Is we come from very different gaming backgrounds. Or Rich has always been this hardcore PC gamer, lone wolf style, and I didn't get my first computer until like 2002.
Oh
And so
wow.
for me, it was all about the consoles, and it was all about the multiplayer, the Mario Kart, the Smash Brothers, the multiplayer gaming on a console. And so we come from our gaming backgrounds are very different. So I feel like we work well together, and hopefully we're articulate enough to voice our opinions.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so easy for me to rail against an opinion because you guys like, you've got to edit it down to a fine exact point. And I'm like, no,
Mhm.
I disagree sometimes.
But I disagree. No, yeah, write your comments in all caps, and then we'll see it, of course.
Yeah, don't do that. What is it? The first review I remember watching you guys do, or the one that sticks out in my mind right now, is that was it The Order 1886 or one of
That was a
those
good
kind
one.
of
Yeah, that was
games?
an early good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that one, and I think that one kind of like really popped for you guys because it was a new game and you were one of the places that were really, uh, I'm not gonna say harsh, but honest about it.
Well, the Order 1886 was a really special case for us because Rich and I have no connections in the industry, and so we don't. Unlike a professional reviewer, we don't get advanced copies of games.
Oh, okay.
And so usually what will happen is the day the game is released, we'll pick it up, haul ass to try to get 20, 30 hours of game time in, which can take up to 2, 3 days, and
Wow.
then film, and then it takes me another 20, 30 hours to edit the episode. And so at best we're looking at a week after game release.
Usually
The
that's when all the big reviewers of they've had their day one, they've got their review out.
Oh, exactly, because everyone else gets advanced copies, so their review drops day of release or day before release. So we're playing catch up, best case scenario. But with the Order 1886, the game was only 5 hours long.
Yeah, I remember watching the review, and it ends with a fade to black where you hear a gunshot at the end of it.
The gunshot fade to black. It was gorgeous, and so like it was efficient and easy for us to pick apart every little piece of that game because it only took us half a day to play it.
Oh, wow. So instead of spending the time playing it, you were able to spend the time laying out exactly how shitty the game was.
Well, of course, it's only 5 hours long, and so like a lot of times you have to almost critique a game closer to that of a TV series,
Yeah.
where it'll have these ups and it's down, but it's stretched out over such a long period where the whole thing kind of evens out. The low points of a longer game get elevated by the high points, but because the Order 1886 was so short, we just got to scalpel focus on all of the negativity, which was great.
And it made a highly entertaining, review for sure.
We came very close to boiling my GoPro with that end of lighting it on fire with all the matchsticks spelling "fuck you." I had
So oh, that's right. I'm gonna post a link to the review here so people can go watch it, but you guys need to go check out this review because he's right, they light the game on fire at the end of the review.
that's the only game we have ever felt the need to destroy, like to dismantle, because it was so insulting to us as gamers that it even exists.
Because I had forgotten that you guys did that because that's more like something you do at the end of Best of the Worst, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like for best of the worst, we usually watch three bad movies, and it's not really even trying to pick them apart. We just have a comedic discussion about the three movies. But the show is all about finding that diamond in the rough, that The Room or Miami Connection or all of the other garbage movies that we've found doing best of the worst. And so we try to make it into a little competition, which is the greatest bad movie. And if any movie reaches the point where it insults our intelligence or it's so bad that no one should watch it.
Yeah, I think, my wife is I'm not gonna tell her that it was your fault, but I made her watch Miami Connection with me one night, and I laughed my ass off. It was
My
just like, "What is this?" And I go,
Miami
"Well,
Connection is so special.
it is." It's like, "How did this get made? Did this play in theaters? What?"
If anyone's listening, if you liked Miami, well, first of all, go see Miami Connection. If you don't know what Miami Connection is, it's a movie about a group of college kids who are in a rock and roll band who also do taekwondo, who end up fighting a gang that also does taekwondo, and there are ninjas selling drugs who also do taekwondo.
Yeah, and if that you think that sounds crazy, at about, what, 3/4 of the movie, it turns into like a horror film
It
almost.
it turns into a horror bloodbath action schlock, and it's a beautiful movie. It's one of those things where, when you're looking for, like, the good bad movies, what you want is a filmmaker whose ego far exceeds their talent.
Yeah, that's pretty much a consistent thing in all the bad movies you guys, pick for best of the worst.
Absolutely, and recently, actually, Vice did a little mini documentary trying to find YK Kim, the writer, director, star of Miami Connection. And there's like this little 5-minute documentary about where he is now and why he made the movie and how embarrassed he is by the movie and how making that movie almost ruined him and his family financially.
Wow, I had no idea.
Well, but he's a foreigner and he was coming to the States to teach Taekwondo. And what he thought is, I'll make an American action movie where Taekwondo is at the forefront, and then everyone in America will see this movie and want to take Taekwondo lessons with me.
It's not a bad plan, really.
The only problem was he had never seen a film camera before. But it's a really glorious little mini documentary, and the movie's wonderful. And the behind the scenes story of the Draft House Cinema finding the original film print on eBay for $2 and buying it, not knowing what it was. It's a glorious story.
That's all in the Vice documentary?
Yeah, the vice.com, the
I'll find it.
vice.corn. Yeah.
Okay, I'll find it and I'll put it in the show notes too so people can go check that out. I appreciate it 'cause I'm gonna go watch that now.
Oh, it's great. I wish it was a longer documentary, but it's only like
Hey,
5 or 6
hey,
minutes.
hee, hee, I make poo-poos and pee-pees. Hey, hey, hee, hee, I make poo-poos and pee-pees. One comes out the front, one comes out the back. For both we wipe and flush, but for one we will wipe a little more.
So to switch gears here a little bit, we were talking about 1886 or the Order 1886. I know from watching you play it that you're a fan of Bloodborne.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a big, Souls fan, Dark Souls and Bloodborne fan. Have you played it through lately after they put the DLC in?
Oh yeah, yeah. I played through the DLC, which I thought was a fantastic addition. More so just because I wanted more. And even though it's a smaller area to work with, I loved it. I loved the Orphan of Kos is the new final the final boss, and that boss fight was ball tighteningly fantastic.
Absolutely, agree there.
With any of these, the Soulsborne game, when you start the game, you're super intimidated by the large boss enemies. The trolls are Mount Everest as far as you're concerned.
The
But as you
giant werewolves.
oh yeah, no, the giant werewolves, the blood-starved beast, you're just intimidated by the bigness of the enemies. But then as you progress in the game, you realize that it's the man-sized enemies that are the real challenge.
Right there, because 'cause they're super quick and can deal out a bunch of damage.
Exactly. And so, Yeah, with the DLC, I was just incredibly happy. I actually I'm not too into the Dark Souls games,
Oh, okay. Did
and
you
I think
play through Dark Souls 3?
I played through a lot of Dark Souls 3 and a little bit of Dark Souls 1, and I think a lot of it just has to do with the aesthetic. Like
Like,
I'm a horror movie fan,
yeah.
and so I think that a lot of the thing that was engaging me in Bloodborne was that Lovecraftian, slimy horror universe.
Yeah, you're not gonna find a game that does it better than Bloodborne if you like the Lovecraft stuff, and the horror elements were great, like the old men screaming out and the turning into beasts.
Oh yeah, just glorious, and little you're talking to little kids trying to find their parents, and it's
Oh, no.
right, just eerie and depressing. And because if you die, you lose everything. Your life is so important that you're just constantly looking over your shoulder. And so those jump scare moments when an enemy jumps out from behind a tree, it's genuine and it's real. And I never felt the same kind of engagement with the Dark Souls games. And I think a lot of that just has to do because I don't necessarily care about knights and dragons and stuff like that.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I like the fantasy elements. Like my first Souls game was Dark Souls 1. And even though I love Bloodborne, it's still a number 2 on that list, but because I fell in love with Dark Souls first.
Mhm.
But yeah, they some of the things that they like touched upon in Dark Souls, they've honed to a fine blade edge with Bloodborne, literally.
A fine sawtoothed edge, absolutely.
Exactly. If you've been following FromSoft, a lot of people were looking for E3 this year for maybe a Bloodborne 2 or
Mhm.
another Souls-like game. They said that Dark Souls is over, but would you be interested in I guess this is pretty obvious. At Bloodborne 2, you'd buy it on day one, I'm guessing.
I mean, if they had any sort of ridiculous pre-order bonus, like that would be like I don't pre-order games, but I would pre-order that.
Comes with an 8-foot tall statue of the Bloodstarved Beast.
Yes. They've earned a lot of goodwill as far as I'm concerned. Nowadays we're seeing a lot of these like Soulsborne like games. I'm thinking of that. What was that one that came out recently? The Surge,
Oh my
which was
god,
like the
yes.
sci-fi Soulsborne. Yeah, we've seen a lot of the same kind of gameplay. And there was that Sultan Sanctuary, which is basically side-scrolling Dark Souls.
Yeah, 2D Dark Souls, right?
Exactly. Which, like I'm okay with. I like the idea of almost the roguelike elements mixed with that parry dodge combat, but no one seems to get it as right as From Software.
Well, they've been doing it since what, 2006? I think I'm actually right now on my stream playing through the PS3 Demon Souls, which is a precursor to Dark Souls. And
Right, right.
it's really an odd thing to go play a precursor because I see elements of Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Dark Souls 2 and 3 just replayed like they're really honing it down. That's why when I say that Bloodborne, I really love that game. It wouldn't be that game if they wouldn't have learned those lessons in Demon Souls and Dark Souls.
Sure, sure. Like how everyone always saw Evil Dead 2 first.
Right.
And then if you go back and you watch Evil Dead, you can, like you can see the little sparks of genius that turned into Sam Raimi.
That's
If you watched like Desperado and then went back and watched El Mariachi, you
those are
can.
absolutely perfect metaphors. I mean, exactly the same thing that happens. And
Mhm.
it's weird to play something that's older but familiar because you played the predecessors. Just like when you go back and watch Evil Dead 1, you're like, "Oh yeah, okay, here's the first pass at it."
Exactly. Here's the rough draft.
Yeah, I played the Surge, and man, it's all the frustration of Dark Souls and Bloodborne without the positives that come with those games.
Right, like you don't give a fuck about, their supposedly interesting addition was this hacking off people's limbs to attach to your body, but it never feels gratifying.
I know exactly what you mean. It's almost repetitive. It turns into like a farming mini game you have to.
That's exactly what it is. It's too repetitive, and Oh, Neo was the other one, was the
Yeah.
samurai Dark Souls, and that was the same thing where it focused too much on this sword play, like your different stances that never really mattered, and yeah.
I think you
Yeah.
guys did a review on that one as well.
We did, because we're such big fans of Bloodborne, and Neo was, hey, here's another game, and it's like the From Software games, and it's just not as good, because when you're aping the style so much, you have to be compared to the thing you're aping.
Exactly. I had the same experience. All my streamer friends who I'm in a bit of a circle with some Dark Souls fans. Go back. I still play Dark Souls 1 just for fun. I hang out with a lot of like speed runners and challenge runners and
Mhm.
watch their streams, cuz I just that game to me is like it's one of my favorite games of all time. But they're like, "Oh, you got to try Neo. It's amazing." And I got it and I played through the tutorial level and I played through the first level and I'm like, "It's just not quite over that hump."
Right? Because all you're thinking is, man, I'd much rather be playing Dark Souls.
Exactly. You're like, I could play this, or I could just go play the other one again and have more
Or it's
fun."
like, is there a mod where I could put a different skin on Dark Souls and still have that gameplay, but just have him look like a samurai? Because I'd prefer that. Right.
Exactly.
Whatever can be done.
So, speaking of new game releases, there was a new Sonic game come out, and I think if I've done my research correctly, you're not the biggest Sonic fan. Is that right?
I- I'm not. I really dislike Sonic, and I very early on and previously recorded, I convinced Rich to do a look back at Sonic the Hedgehog because I have such hate towards the franchise.
And yeah, I remember watching you guys do that and like really cheering you on because I'm the same way. I'm old enough to have been somewhat of a early teenager when those games were new. Big
Mhm.
Nintendo honk, big Mario fan, and my friends were like, "Oh, you gotta get a Sega Genesis and play the Sonic game." I'm like, "Well, it's okay, but it's just nowhere near the platforming fluidity that comes with Mario because 'cause you're running around and then you hit some spikes, you hit a wall, you never really get momentum going."
Uh, It's like playing it as an adult, question how smart kids really are. And like, I know when we're younger, we didn't have the games that we had to have now. Like
That's
we
true.
had you get one new game a year, and that's the only thing you get to play. And so I could see if, for Christmas, a kid got a Genesis and Sonic, that's the only game you can play. That's the game you are going to play. And I can see if that's the only game you have, memorizing the level layout and putting up with some of the downsides, but you just go too fast.
I agree 100%. I have some friends from the UK who talk about how great it was and they loved it. I'm like, "Yeah, but have you played it lately?" And then the other side of that is this is something I didn't know until I was having this argument, just conversation, not an argument, with some
Mhm,
friends from the UK. I'm like, their TVs were actually don't quote me on the numbers here. We had 60 hertz TVs, so the Genesis rendered at 60 frames per second. In the UK, their TVs were 48 hertz, so their Mega Drive is what they call the Genesis over there. Actually, literally played slower. And I wonder how much of that 10% reduction in speed helped them enjoy the game more.
well, and, I'm gonna try to get techie, and I might be wrong about this.
All right.
So, back in the day, you had, we had a 60 hertz television, but it was interlaced footage.
Okay.
And so because of the interlacing, you would only have half of the image for every hertz. And so, it was still 30 full frames a second and 60 half frames,
I understand what you're saying.
because the way interlace footage works, for any kids listening right now, is you have to think of like Venetian blinds, where, the blinds are half of the image and the space in between the lines is the other half of the image. And so for half a hertz, or for 1 hertz, you get half of the image in a Venetian blind, and then the other half fills out, and then it goes so fast, it goes faster than the human eye can comprehend, and it looks like a full image to us. But if you take that image and say like record it to software and go frame by frame, you can actually see the interlaced lines. So a lot of people like to say that old school gaming was 60 frames a second, but really it was 60 half frames a second.
Yeah, your brain might have thought that. What is it that Mike says? You may not have noticed it, but your brain did.
But your brain did, yeah. Well, and like that was dealing with the limitations. And so like we in the States had 30 TVs, and in the UK, their TVs actually their standard was 25 frames a second.
Okay, so the
And
same
so
Venetian blind kind of thing, 25.
it's the same Venetian blind kind of things, but actually the way that PAL works. So now we're talking about
NCSC.
NCSC versus PAL, and actually they did have it a little bit better than we did
Oh, wow.
because they introduced a progressive scan earlier than we did, but now we're getting way off topic. But
We're getting off of the weeds here with 4K
this
talk.
is I've been a lifelong video producer, and not many people care about interlaced footage except for me when I go back to old footage that I shot and have to upres it to high definition.
Because you gotta know these things, otherwise it's gonna look like shit when you're done.
Exactly.
So, while I've got you on the resolution topic, are you
Mhm.
a frames guy or do you have to have 60 frames when you're playing a PC game, or are you okay with 30?
Oh my god. Okay, so as I talked about at the beginning, I've always been a console person,
Yeah.
and I loved consoles, and I think consoles were at one point in time a better option. And now that I have a very nice gaming PC, I feel like a goddamn idiot. And
PC
now I'm
Master Race, right?
hardcore PC master race. And I mean, really, as far as I'm concerned, I do not care how crisp the graphics look, and I don't care if every blade of grass is individually rendered with its own physics. We need that frame rate. The higher
You
the
got
frame
it.
rate, the better.
I couldn't agree more, man. I was playing, I for whatever reason, when No Man's Sky a couple weeks ago dropped to like a ridiculously cheap price on Steam, I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I said if it was 20, 25 bucks, I'd get it.
Uh,
I got it and I streamed it for like, I want to say 10 total hours. And by the end of the 10th hour, not all at once, mind you, by
oh,
the end of the
sure,
10th
sure.
hour, I kept having all these frame rate issues. It doesn't work well with NVIDIA's G Sync. Turn
Oh,
off
yeah,
all
yeah.
this crap. I I went from hating that game, but giving I honestly gave it a good shot. I have some people whose opinion I really respect say, "Hey, it's if you can get into it, if you can get immersed into the discovery, it's great." And after fighting it for 10 hours, I said I was looking at my camera and at my stream and I go, I think this is how me and No Man's Sky officially get divorced right now." Even after they did this upgrade, I'm like, "No, it sucks."
It
It's
sucks
like
so bad.
it's like walking in quicksand the whole game. It's like, I know there's 10 things I need to do, and when I'm trying to knock one of them off the list, it gives me 15 more things that I know need to do that I can't do fast enough.
Man, No Man's Sky. Like, oh, No Man's Sky. No, and I get that argument. I get that argument. Like that's an old stand-up comedy thing where like comedians often talk about like it's not just their performance. The audience needs to be willing to laugh. And when you go see a movie, you need to be prepared to take in the movie, right?
Right.
It's the same with games. Like you need to be prepared to let the game let you in. But that can only go so far. I before I knew how No Man's Sky ended, for our review, I was up until 3, 4 in the morning every night playing No Man's Sky because I was trying to get to the end for the review. And
Oh my god.
eventually, I just had to Google it. It's like, fuck it. I need to talk about the end. I have, 40, 30, 50 hours into this stupid game that I hate every single second of. I'll just look up a video on how it ends. And, it just ends with it starting over to getting to the center of the universe. And there's no point to exploring because all you do is scan a thing and then go and scan another thing. Just dumb, and I hate it.
I'm right there with you. When I saw that when it was new, I probably saw it on your review, how it starts over. It reminded me of beating the third level of Donkey Kong and went, wait, this is just the first level again. What is this shit? Aren't there more levels than this? Really? There's only 3 levels? This I put $20 in this arcade machine.
Yep, yep, yep. And like I don't care how beautiful it is. You can. I think a thing that Rich and I talked about in our review a lot was just seeing the copy and paste.
Yeah, they did some variation with this latest patch where the monsters or the little critters and the plants. There is some variation, but if you've played enough video games, it doesn't fool you anymore. You're not immersed in it anymore. You're like, no, this is the planet I was just on. Try a harder game.
Oh, sure. No, and you know what? Like they could have thousands of different trees and animals. It doesn't matter because all you're doing is looking for the same red rock to put in your spaceship so you can fly to the next planet. And then you're looking for the yellow rock to recharge your gun and the green rock to do this. And the red rock and the yellow rock and the green rock are the same on every planet. And who cares if they're next to different animals? You're looking for the same shit on every planet.
Exactly, dude. I couldn't be more in line with what you're saying.
No, and yet so many people lately have just been like, "Hey, there's a new patch. There's a new patch for No Man's Sky. You gonna try out No Man's Sky again?" And I just can't type no any harder.
I'm hitting these keys as hard as I can, guys. Hey man, I got some new lipstick. You want to put it on your pig?
Right?
Right.
I had a good metaphor and I lost it.
So, have you played the Nintendo Switch at all?
We actually we both got a Switch thanks to actually a fan of ours, someone who worked in a video game store was able to secure a couple Switches during the drought and sent them to us. I mean, we paid for them, of course, but
Okay.
yeah, both Rich and I have a Switch, and we played Breath of the Wild, the new Zelda game, on the Switch.
Oh yeah, I remember watching you guys stream that sometimes.
And I think it's a fantastic concept for a console. I'm a huge fan of mobile gaming, and I'm out and about a lot and often find myself, being out and having a half hour to kill. When you have kids, you go to the kid thing and they got to do their thing and you got a half
Right.
hour to kill. But we're running into that age old problem of I don't want to play any of the games that you have.
Right. You tried the Splatoon or Arms or any of those things?
Like I got arms and was pretty psyched about it, and played a few rounds and I got it and it was fine, and I haven't touched it since, and I beat Breath of the Wild and I don't care to explore anymore, and I sunk another 20 some hours into the Binding of Isaac on the Switch just because I love the Binding of Isaac. And now I'm just kind of it's been on my shelf. It's collecting dust. My kids play it, more than I do.
Well, at least it's getting some use. I had the same issue. I bought it on launch day. I grew up Nintendo honk and
Mhm.
I played Breath of the Wild. In fact, I have not even finished Breath of the Wild yet because I started streaming this year. Like, you know how it is when you have when you're streaming, I don't know how you guys do it, but sometimes I pick a game because I want to play it. Sometimes I pick a game because I think it'll be good for the stream.
Mhm.
And and you guys have two people to satiate once. I know from watching your reviews, you've been playing PUBG, but maybe Rich has just been watching or running the chat.
Well, I mean, as far as streaming is concerned, like I I'm still playing PUBG. Here's what I don't like PUBG overall, even though I keep playing it and I can't quite tell you why I keep playing it. Mostly because I want that chicken dinner on a solo run. We keep streaming PUBG because we keep having really fun moments. And we've been able to have the chat come and play with us, and usually we can get some comedy out of PUBG.
I absolutely know what you're talking about because for a smaller streamer, compared to your guys' channel, I'm a very small streamer. Um, it's almost a poison pill to stream PUBG because you're so far down on a list. I may have the most viewers I've ever had on my channel. I'm still not even in the top 100 pages of that game because it's so popular right now.
Of course. Well, it's one of those games, a lot like Friday the 13th, which we streamed a ton of. And actually that's the whole reason I wanted to play PUBG in the first place, was because a lot of people told me it had a lot of similar aspects to Friday the 13th, which is just this: you will you will run into a situation in PUBG that you have never run into before, and no one who has ever played the game will ever run into before.
I know exactly what you mean, man. That's when I stream it, what I'm really mining out of the game is I'd love to get chicken dinners too, but it's those comedy moments of accidentally shooting your friend in the face, or you're cruising along and you're driving your Jeep with a car full of people and you're checking your map and there's a tree there and you just kill everybody. Or yeah,
Right.
all those moments are those clipped moments, or you clip them out and put them on your Discord for your fans to watch, because it's fun, and it's, I think when I watched your guys' review, you hit it right on the head by saying it's not a great game and it's buggy as hell and it's not even full release, but there are moments, and playing it with friends, it's more than the sum of its parts.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing with PUBG is, like, if you're going to play it, be with someone, have an experience together. And it elevates PUBG 1,000 times, because then you have someone to laugh with when you terribly fuck up.
Right. Like I met you for the first time earlier tonight. We planned on doing this podcast like an hour ago, but
Mm.
I happened to see you logging into PUBG when my wife and I were both playing it, and I said, "Hey man, you want to join us?" You're like, "Sure," and we just jumped in, had a good old time. We laughed, and we actually did pretty good tonight.
Yeah, you know what? Second place as a team, and we were close. We were so close to that chicken dinner.
Exactly. And what's really frustrating to me personally is that was my third number two of the day. And it's like,
Oh.
I was so close 3 times. So my first, just to laugh about those issues, I was playing with my co-host tonight, Cherry. We were doing duos um, earlier this afternoon, and it was us two versus two other people, and they were off in the distance, and we had knocked one of them down, but one of them shot and killed my co-host Cherry.
Mhm.
And I go, okay, they're doing it. She's like, come res me. I'm like, no, no, no. They're over resing each other. I'm going to run up on them with a shotgun and shoot them and we'll win.
Mhm.
And I run up there and I'm steps away from going around the tree, and both of them pop around the tree and shoot me in the face. And we get number two. She goes, why didn't you res me? I'm like, well, it would have been so amazing if I would have run around the tree and killed them.
The tempting chicken dinner.
Exactly. It's like, I think you said it earlier best. The variety of game style in that game. You're either farming up what you need, you're waiting patiently and being quiet, or you're just balls out running, getting away from the blue, or running away from fire, or chasing people.
Well, that's yeah. We were talking about this while we're playing. Like, the hardest thing to master in PUBG is the gear shift, because if you're outside that white line and the blue line is closing in, you don't care about being sneaky. You don't care if there are
Right.
other people in your sights. You are running. That is your only objective. But
That
then
blue is
if you're
scary.
blue is scary because that's death. But then if you're inside that white line, you need to be you need to think with tactics. You need to be careful. You need to be cautious. And shifting gears like that is incredibly difficult. And like, it's a lot of these things that are positives for PUBG, even though every time you die, it feels like bullshit and you hate the game.
Exactly. I just edited a video today where I have a 6.86, which is the 2-shot shotgun. It's like the highest damage shotgun in the game.
Mhm.
I'm inside a house. There's a guy outside, and I know he's there. I know he doesn't know I'm there. He opens
Mhm.
the door, pop, pop. I shoot 2 shots, hit him with both of them, and he doesn't fall down. I've got a level 2 vest, a level 3 helmet, which is supposed to seriously reduce headshots. He shoots me with the 1897 one shot, and I die. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Oh, right. And it's enough to just make you want to delete the game whole hog, but then 2 hours later, you're playing again. you know, we're really lucky as far as streamers are concerned, because Rich and I do it together. If either one of us just want to play a game, we have the other one there to pick up the conversation. You know, I know a lot of times Rich will just say, "Hey, you know what? I'm just going to play FTL tonight. You deal with chat. You guide the conversation. I'm just going to be over here playing FTL."
Yeah, and I'll give Rich a lot of credit for that. FTL is a game I had not heard of, but man, he has such a passion for that game, and watching him play it made me go get it and play the hell out of it.
Oh, it's one of those fantastic strategy games. Hopefully everyone knows what FTL is, but I once it came out for iPad, that's one of my go-to bathroom games now. You know, just
I had
20
no idea it was on
minutes.
iPad.
Oh, it's on the iPad now, and it's a fantastic iPad game because you can do touch controls to change your energy levels and for guiding your beam weapons. It's a beautiful iPad port, and it's also a beautiful, like, I have 20 minutes. I'm going to do a couple battles, go through the sector. I'll pick it up again later.
Wow, I think you just killed my productivity for the next month. Well, as much I could talk to you about video games and specific games and gaming in general all night, but I have to fulfill my other part of the podcast, and let's talk about streaming just for a
Okay.
little bit, and then we'll get out of here. We're already way over, and I know you got a lot of stuff to do. You probably want to get to bed. Um, but so you guys came in from my perspective anyway, and you correct me if any of this is wrong, but from my perspective, you guys came in with almost like a pre-built audience. So you have a very unique Twitch timeline.
Absolutely. You know, we were really fortunate because, you know, when we started previously recorded, we had been doing stuff with Red Letter Media forever. And not really forever, because like Best of the Worst just started like maybe 2 years before that. But Rich, of course, has been doing stuff with Red Letter Media for a lot longer, and the Plinkett reviews had been out for a lot longer, and Half in the Bag. So we came into it with a built-in audience. And the fun part for, like if we're talking streaming and timeline, was seeing that built-in audience completely drop away in the first 6 months because they realized that Jay and Mike weren't going to come to the streams.
Oh,
And
okay. So you guys kind of had, I mean, I honestly saw that. I was there during I was one of the people that was like, I like Red Letter Media. I like video games.
Mhm.
Previously recorded sounds fun. And I came in and I saw like the stereotypical guy was like, where's Jay? Where's Mike? And I'm like, guys, they're not going to be here. I don't know how much more clear they could be about it.
Oh, well, and like every once in a while, Jay will come and we'll have a great conversation about movies. Mike does not come to streams, and he will never come to streams, no matter what he says on Twitter. And so like starting with an audience, losing that audience, and then slowly building our own audience over the past 3+ years has been quite the experience.
Yeah, definitely have noticed, because you guys, I think when you first started out, and I don't remember any of the numbers, but you had, you came in really hot with all the Red Letter Media people, and then it kind of tapered off a little bit, but then you guys started going back up almost within the first month or two, didn't you not?
I want to say, like, our first 4 months were pretty good. And then we had maybe like another 4 month lull. And a lot of that was because of technical problems. Like our original streams 3 years ago, I would put one microphone in the room for all of us just
So
because I didn't understand.
so you guys do a two mic setup with the two of you now?
Oh yeah, now and everyone who comes, like if someone comes, everyone has their own individual mic, and each individual mic has its own leveling. We
I
we've figured it out.
I don't know why it just popped in my head, but I can remember back in the early days because Rich has a what's the polite way of saying very nasally tone, and he has a lot of volume. He would say, "Oh my god," and it would like just blow out the speakers on my TV. I'm like, "Oh my god, Rich, be quiet."
Rich has a magical voice, and I've spent literally the entirety of my professional career recording audio and video, and I still cannot record Rich's voice right. His voice cannot be contained, and no matter how many limiters you put on it, he will blow them out. It's amazing.
So this is a
Well,
kind of a nerdy question, but I've noticed in your YouTube videos or on stream that sometimes when he laughs or gets loud, there's like an echoey quality. Is that the double mics picking it up, or is that something you guys do as an effect just for fun?
no, that is the double mic that's my microphone picking up his insane laughter, and both of our microphones have compressors and limiters on them, and that's how magical his voice is.
I kind of just, as you sit there and think about it as I'm watching, I'm like, that's got to be just both those mics picking up because I'm learning those things. I don't have two people streaming all the time. My wife,
Mhm.
who played with us earlier, the Sunny D is her channel. She will sometimes come in here and we'll hook the Nintendo up and we'll play old school games together and chat and
Mhm.
stuff. And we just hang a mic over top of us because we don't have the budget right now to get individual mics for everybody for something we do once a month maybe.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and yeah, and that's another thing where it's very fortunate that we had, this back catalog of Red Letter Media, because when it came time to upgrade our streaming, we were talking with Mike and Jay, and they said, "Well, we do a lot of movie commentaries, so let's split our budgets a little bit." And they bought some very nice condenser microphones, and I brought in my Zoom H6, and the Zoom H6 is actually a way to plug in XLR microphones and have it interface with the computer. And so we can have up to 6 individual microphones with their own leveling hooked into the computer all through the Zoom H6. And we
Oh
were able to
wow.
pool our resources so that they can have really amazing sounding movie commentaries, and Rich and I can have really good sounding streams. And so that's how we do it now. We have these Shure condenser microphones plugged into the Zoom H6 that goes into the computer.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I have a Zoom H5. I play music part time on the weekends, and I actually run sound and record audio for live bands around the area that I live. I'm not going to say where I live just because people, for reasons we talked about
Because
earlier.
people are
But
crazy. No,
yeah,
no, and Zoom makes amazing products, and the fact that I can pick up that Zoom and plug some batteries into it and have it be my on the go field recorder. It's a gorgeous piece of equipment,
yeah,
and
it has those
it's
two
taken
off
our
axis mics on it to pick up the air.
exactly. And you can do those mics to pick up the air and plug in XLRs to pick up some better, and then it records everything to its own separate channel.
You can mix
and,
it down
and
separately later.
exactly, and that's what Rich and I use for previously recorded. We record into the Zoom, and then I have individual channels, my microphone and Rich's microphone, so I can adjust as needed, which is amazing and wonderful. And
Well,
it's all
I
these things that we've learned throughout the years of streaming. Like I said, when we first started, I actually had a Zoom, like one individual Zoom microphone for all four of us in the room, and it sounded like hot garbage.
It's funny because, I know exactly what you mean. I have a bit of a reputation around my area for being they'll hire me to come record a live performance because I get the true sound, and all I do is a I take a line out of the house sound, and I put
Mhm.
it in the Zoom as one input. I take an open air mic, and I put it way up in the air to capture kind of the high echoey off the ceiling, and then I use the 2 off axis mics, and that's by all my inputs, and then mix it down later. It's all in the mix down.
Absolutely. No, and the way the Zoom handles its recording is unlike, I know for for how Jay and Mike do Best of the Worst, for example, where there's four of us on microphone, they actually record that directly into the camera. And so then for two of us on one camera, it each of us are on the left and right channel. and then the other two are recorded into the other camera on that camera's left and right channel. So then they need to take that audio, split the left and right to make two mono channels.
Yep.
And so then they have four mono channels, which is an incredible pain in the ass. And it's really hard to get anyone to change their workflow. But I've been trying to pound into their head that, like, the Zoom is there at the studio. Let's use that.
Let's use the best 1950s technology we have, stereo recording.
Each of us could have their own channel from the get-go, and all you'd have to do is sync it. It's amazing.
When I was a pimple faced geek back in the garage playing music, we used to have 4-track cassette recorders, and we would do that ping ponging where you'd record on the left and right channels and have separate tracks.
Absolutely.
And that was like 1990.
It's great. Yeah, I know. And for a while in the early streams, we didn't have a camera. And as Twitch grew, and as Rich and I watched more Twitch channels, we would find ourselves kind of gravitating towards streamers that had a camera. And it's got to be some sort of psychological response just to, like, engage with the person playing. Having that camera there really helps. And like for Rich and I, who mostly like bullshit while we're playing games, having that added resource of physical comedy along with whatever we're talking about is really important. And so, for a while we didn't do the camera. Now we do the camera, and figuring out how best to position the camera in the game. I know everyone hates my overlay, but I still love it. I probably
Yeah,
need to tweak it, but
I think I think what you guys do is great. But I think the physical response, you nailed it, because sometimes it's the aha moment when somebody achieves something in game and you get to see their reaction, or
yeah.
when it's not going well and you can see how pissed they are. I mean, that adds to it, I believe, 100%.
Oh, it does. It does. And it just helps. It helps lock in that engagement, which is what Twitch. To me, when Rich and I started the channel, there a lot of people were doing the Let's Plays on YouTube, and Rich and I didn't want to do that because it felt a little cheap. And so
Yeah, I can see that.
what Twitch offers is something beyond a Let's Play, which is engagement. And actually that's an incredibly difficult part of it, because when you're streaming, you're trying to hold a conversation with your chat, and you're trying to tell a story. And for like back in the early days, you're also trying to moderate your chat and you're trying to do 8 other things while playing a game.
Oh, dude, you don't have to tell me about that. Some days, like, especially if you're pulling a really long stream, at the end of it, you're like, I think when I first hit, I something ridiculous. Like, I got like 300 followers. I'm like, I want to do a 24-hour stream. And I literally think like I took years off my life doing that, because I remember at the end of it, some friend of mine wanted to play Portal 2 co-op. And, that's not a game you could play with, 25% of your faculties permanently checked out. And I was playing, I'm like, I know this game isn't this hard, but I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm gonna have to stop.
Well, right, because like streaming a game, and trying to be a good streamer. It's not just streaming, because Rich will do that every once in a while, where it's a Rich solo stream. And the rule for a Rich solo stream is he's not gonna talk to you. He's here to play a game. He's gonna stream it. You guys talk amongst yourself, and we have a good enough chat community where they can do that.
For
But
sure.
but if you're an engaging streamer, you want to watch the chat, because they're going to be in a conversation, and you want to be a part of that conversation, and you want to keep your chat engaged in that conversation. And it makes playing the game more hard, because you're half focused on it.
Concentration's split up.
It is, and there's no way around it. And I know, we get that a lot, Rich and I, when we stream a game. A lot of people accuse us of just being terrible at the
That's not
game.
exactly fair, though.
Well, but none of these people stream games, and so it's like,
Yeah.
you fucking stream a game and talk with your chat and have a story about the Batman versus Superman movie. And also, you need to keep out for people saying awful things in your chat, and you need to moderate them, and check your Twitter, and check your Steam invites.
And your OBS, make sure it's running and not dropping frames. And dude, I have a lot of bells ringing right now in my head.
Exactly. Well, it's really difficult, but the thing that Twitch has to offer, I think, is where entertainment is going, which is less about producing something schlocky for the masses and more about individual audience engagement.
Making them part of the show for sure.
Absolutely. And we've been going long enough now where we have running gags with our chat, and we have running gags that no one cares about anymore that will suddenly pop back up, and it's turned into its own beast. Our chat actually gets together when we're not streaming to watch movies together.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's this little group called the Movie Dicks, and on nights that we're not streaming, they'll get together and chat and watch a movie that's streaming on Netflix or something, and chat about it while watching a movie together. It's amazing, and it's mind-boggling. I still have a hard time explaining what it is I do to my family.
Yeah, they're like, wait, now what is it that you do? So I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that like new streamers have to deal with that they may not expect is how does it impact your real life? I mean, when you guys started streaming, did you have what was it? Did you have to sit your wife down and go, okay, I'm gonna go play video games with somebody tonight, but don't worry, it's work.
No, and it's the hardest when you have kids, because I try to be a good parent, and I try to limit their video game time, and then they'll come into my office and see me playing a video game, and I said, well, no, this is for work. So
No, it's not, Dad. You're just playing.
yeah, no, that was at first it wasn't a big deal, because when we started streaming, we were only doing one night a week. And so that was just the thing. Oh, Wednesday night, I just went, back in the day, people would have poker night, that's a normal thing, or bowling
Right.
night. But then I wanted to do my own thing. So I started to do a Sunday night Jack solo stream, which then turned into just a regular prereq stream. And so now we're doing 2 nights a week. And then it became a viable money making option. And so now it's like, well, these are 2 nights that I work, and it's rolled into this. Like I say, we keep stumbling into streaming every step of the way, and it's difficult. Bringing it all back around. That's why I have a really hard time with PUBG. And on previously recorded, I ended up not recommending it to anyone,
Oh
even
yeah.
though me personally, I've had a lot of fun with it. But it's all muddled in this. Well, I've had fun with it because when I streamed it, we had a really good time. But that's also like a business expense. And so I can't be perfectly objective for PUBG.
Exactly. You can't say, hey, if you're just sitting at home and you want to play a game, this is great for you, because your experience was slightly different than that.
Exactly. And so that's why I ended up not recommending it, because if you're just playing it by yourself, I think you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah, this. I remember watching a review. I think I've seen every one of your reviews if I had to think about it, but
Mhm.
I remember you I don't remember you saying I don't recommend it. I remember you really liking it and Rich not liking it, and I swear you recommended it. But I know now that you said that, I'm like, no. I remember him at the very end going, no, I don't recommend it, and I'm like, I know exactly where he's coming from on that.
Right, but I like it. And I like it because it's entertaining for my audience.
Exactly.
And so it's a crazy situation. And so yeah, I know this is all about streaming and streamers, and I'm just trying to lay it all out there. I'm actually really excited. I just got that Elgato Cam link.
Ooh, is that the newest one? No, what?
Yeah, so Elgato is they make streaming cards.
Yeah.
And I have an Elgato HD capture, and that's what I use to capture all of my gameplay footage. I just send an HDMI out from my computer, and it records onto my other computer. That way I don't have to deal with any sort of like
Resource
overclocking
hog,
issues.
yeah.
Exactly. And they recently came out with something they call the Cam Link, and it's a way to plug like a DSLR or a GoPro through an HDMI out directly into the computer for a lagless webcam.
Oh, okay.
And the idea is we'll handle all the processing in the card so you don't need to deal with software on your computer messing up your webcam.
Makes sense.
And we actually tried it on Wednesday. We tried it yesterday, and it was a horrible failure.
Gotta have a
and it
few of those, though.
and it didn't work. And so I've spent most of today figuring it out, and I've been able to hook up my old DSLR to it. And I like starting now Sunday, we're gonna hook it up, and I got it to work, and it's going to give us a nicer looking webcam image, which isn't super important at the end of the day. But for me as a video nerd, it's just gonna be a little boon, and we don't have to deal with any more webcam problems, which we have all the time.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, you got a certain subset of your audience that tune in just for the video, right?
Well, I actually a lot of our audience does say, I don't care what game you play as long as you keep talking about what movies you saw or what books you read. Like a lot of people do treat us as a podcast.
Yeah, that's very apparent when I watch too. I mean, that's I try to explain it to D, my wife, when I first started streaming. I'm like, there's the fun of playing the game, but it's really the interactivity with people. It's the discussion of pop culture. And I
Mhm.
said this on another episode that I really started to click with me why so many people watch it and so many people do it. I was out and about in my real life doing something. Man, I can't wait to go home and tell my person I only know from Twitch about it. I'm like, oh, that's a friend that I want to talk to. I look forward to having conversations with.
Absolutely. Well, and the downside to that is a lot of times for Rich and I, because we're also friends outside of Red Letter Media, and a lot of times we won't see each other, for 4 days or whatnot in between streams, and then we'll come into the stream and we will have to not talk to each other to make sure that we can save the conversation for the stream. But
It's funny because how many times when we were playing PUBG earlier, I go, wait, I gotta save that for the podcast. Gotta save that for the
exactly,
podcast.
that's all part of it, which is fine.
Well, this is a thing you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I think you kind of touched on it. Um, have you had any negative sides to like you and Rich's relationship, being that you ever like butt heads when it comes to having a relationship like this?
So far, no. Luckily, the reason that myself and Rich and Mike and Jay gravitated towards each other in the first place was because we had this, common sensibilities. And the reason that we all still hang out outside of Red Letter Media is because we're friends. It came, like everything in life. Rich and I had some disagreements politically as far as the last presidential election was concerned, but nothing was unrepairable. And actually, we had a lot of those discussions live on stream, which
Yeah, I
became
saw.
a big problem for our chat, who also had their own political view. Which made our moderators really work for the no money that they're making.
Yeah.
But no, it's just one of those things where we're on stream, you see Rich and I get into a quasi argument over politics. That's real.
Oh, wow. And
And
I think that's what draws people in is because you wouldn't be able to stage and pull that off if you did it fake.
right.
There's like the human eye, like could tell bad CGI. It could tell bad acting when it comes to fighting.
Oh yeah, no, and I know a lot of times there's that line between I'm going to try to say something funny that might rile Rich up versus I'm going to say something that I think is pissing Rich off.
Ah, yeah.
And it's the same for Rich where like he'll have a joke and maybe it crosses a line and then we have to have that awkward conversation live on stream.
And that's why you have the camera, so you guys can see the darted eyes pointing at each other.
Well, and, but like I said, we're friends. If we weren't live streaming and if we weren't making videos, we would probably just be hanging out at least once a week for board game night.
Oh, that's awesome.
So hopefully nothing we say on stream will be irreversible.
If you had to talk directly to the 1.5 people that might listen to this that don't know who you are, what would you say to entice them to give you guys a shot?
Generally, if you're a fan of movies and if you're a fan of video games, you get to hear at least 2 assholes, if not 4 assholes, making fun of the thing you like a lot.
Perfect. Oh, that was nice and succinct and to the point, and it's going to really paint or set the expectation for anybody who comes in what you're going to get.
Absolutely. Just a bunch of assholes talking. That's all we are.
Are you talking about your channel or Twitch in general? Well, hey, I know I've taken you really long here. I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. I want to thank everyone out there who's listening for coming by. Go watch previously recorded live. Go watch their YouTube channels. These guys are great. Take it from me personally. They're the reason I'm here. Jack, do you have any social media?
Sure, yeah. Like if you want to reach out to me directly on Twitter, I'm at Harlack, which is HARLACK. If not, you can go to redlettermedia.com. That will have all the movie stuff, all the best of the worst stuff, all of the video game stuff. Our specific YouTube channel is previously recorded, or on Twitch any Sunday or Wednesday night. We will be there streaming. Come by and say hi. We are previously recorded _live.
And make sure to follow the podcast on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook. We're pretty new, so if you go to iTunes, you can subscribe to it, rate it, or like it, even leave us a review. That would really help us. All links in the episode that we talked about, Jack's information, and all of the links to the podcast social media will be in the description.
And my personal information, my home address, phone number, all of
exactly. I'll put his GPS coordinates to his home down there, so you guys can go hang out in his bushes outside his house. But be sure to check out Jack and catch us here next time on Go Lurk Yourself.